fans, welcome back to Room 237, and I have kind of a random review for you. It's not a slasher film. It's not a Patreon request. This is something that I watched recently because my girlfriend actually wanted to see it. She really likes found footage films. I like checking out new to myself found footage films. This is one I've known about, but I hadn't seen yet. And to be honest, I don't know how this review is going to go because I have very mixed feelings on it. And that is 2015's The Visit. Yes, M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit. Now, real quick, M. Night Shyamalan, by and large, is a filmmaker that I'm not a fan of. I never have been. I do still enjoy The Sixth Sense. I think The Sixth Sense is a effective, creepy movie. It works as PG-13. It works as supernatural. It's a twist that works. It is an effective film. Unbreakable, I have not seen yet. I know a comic reader like myself should. I know about it. I've seen clips from it. I just haven't gotten around to seeing it yet. Signs, never a fan of. And then, of course, like most people, I think The Village was really where I was like, okay, I'm done with this guy. Because I didn't like The Village either. Of course, The Happening is The fucking Happening. I never saw his Avatar film. I was never into Avatar. I didn't see Afterbirth because I didn't need to. I've never been a fan of Jaden Smith either. But I know this came out after all that. And when this came out, or when this was advertised as coming out, people were actually really stoked. This was I remember this being a pretty anticipated film. I know it got mixed reviews, but fans of it when it came out really thought this was the return of Shyamalan. In a way, I can kind of agree, but then of course he did Split, and Split pissed me off to no fucking end. Because that was a great movie. Modern day Psycho or Raising Cain, ending shit all over it. Fucking hate the ending to Split, so much so that I didn't see Glass, and I don't really feel the need to. So The Visit, it is one of his better films. Being realistic, it is one of his better films. Way better than Signs, way better than The Village. Without the ending, Split was a better movie, but I fucking hate the ending to that so bad. Does it work as a found footage film? The story does, but it's one of those found footage flicks where it feels like a studio making a found footage movie. Like, it looks like a movie that's trying to be found footage. It doesn't actually feel like one, which I know is very hard to do. The performances work. The two kids, Olivia Zhang, and Ed Oxenbould, I thought they not only did their parts well, but I thought they had incredible chemistry together. I bought them as brother and sister. I thought their chemistry was actually rather impeccable. The performance of the grandparents, Deanna Dunnigan and Peter McRobbie, and also their mother, Catherine Hahn, who is a woman who is an actress that I actually find very funny. Step Brothers, We're the Millers, Parks and Rec. I really like Catherine Hahn. And she gets to do more dramatic stuff in this. And all the acting, I think, is well done. I think the performances actually work in this. One of the biggest things, another thing that I think works is one thing that is very, very hard to pull off in found footage. And that's a believable reason as to why they're still filming. A lot of these, almost every found footage film, people watching it are like, why are they still filming? Why does this have to be filmed? Here, you kind of get it. It's okay. The sister, I think it says she's 15, he's 13. She, honestly, maybe she's a little bit of Shyamalan, but she is the sort of stereotype of the pretentious filmmaker. She says very pretentious things throughout the film. Feels the need to capture everything. So you kind of buy it. Like in Blair Witch. Blair Witch, I still stand by. That's another found footage movie that I buy and believe why they're still filming. Heather is a pretentious film student. Now here, I think the pretentiousness is played up for comedy. Or more the humorous side of a character. Like when they're on the plane or train, whichever it is, to go see their grandparents. She's taping herself and she says, we've never met them, so we don't know, what does she say? We don't know their temperaments or their proclivities. And then, of course, he comes in and he's like, we don't even know what they like. And then when they get there, they see a swing in the yard, and he wants to go, sit on it. And she says, no, let it swing organically. So, yeah, she's like a pretentious wannabe filmmaker. He is, even though he looks like he could be the brother of Dag Farch, or whatever his name was, young Michael Myers from Rob Zombie's Halloween. He looks like he could be his brother. He's a wannabe rapper. And I think that is also played up for laughs. When he raps, I'll give him credit for, being able to say everything. I think it's supposed to be cringy, seeing this young kid actually thinking he's cool while doing all these raps. I think it's supposed to be cringy, and that works. But so the story is, okay, they're going to meet their grandparents for the first time. Their mother, Catherine Hahn, left home when she got with their dad 15 years ago. I think she was pregnant with the daughter. She doesn't talk about the day she left. She hasn't talked to them since. But they want to meet their grandkids. So she decides to ship them over so they can spend a week with them. And when they get there, they seem fine, but things go from odd to creepy to worse during their visit. That's basically the story. And you find out that they're acting crazy and they're just creepy grandparents. Eric Walkuski from JoBlo.com. What Jaws did for sharks and Psycho did for showers, The Visit will do for grandparents. I think that was the conceit. If that worked for you, then all the power to you. I don't think it was that effective. This is what I've heard and call a sweater thread film, or sweater thread theory, where when you think of an aspect and you ask a question, it's like pulling a thread of a sweater, which when you do that, it all falls apart. For example, Catherine Hahn doesn't have any pictures of the grandparents. So she doesn't even show them what they look like. She didn't talk to them on the phone before they went. I think they reached out by email or something. So they don't even know who they're looking for when they get to the station. And then of course when they get there, they never want to be on webcam when they're talking to their mother. At one point, the grandmother even accidentally gets like cake batter on the webcam, so it can't be used. Whenever someone who knows the grandparents stops by, they're always gone. They're out on a hike or walk or whatever. So it's like, okay, they don't even get to know what their grandparents looks like. They didn't talk to them over the phone or anything beforehand. It is just like, well, okay, so anybody could be their grandparents. And I think that it really doesn't help the twist at the end, which I will say spoiler warning before I say it. It is one of those things that when you think about it, it doesn't make sense. And, ignoring all that, just looking at the creepy scenes, okay, at night, the grandfather tries to tell them, hey, we're old, so 9:30 is bedtime, and we need our sleep, so don't come out after 9:30. But they hear noises, they check outside the room, they see the grandmother naked scratching at the wall. And the brother is a bit comic relief, so when they shut the door, he's like, I'm blind. But before that, there's even scenes, like, they're crawling around under the house. There's all these stone pillars, support pillars. And they're like, oh, this is where Mom used to play hide and seek. So they're running around, hiding behind the pillars. Then all of a sudden, the grandmother is down there chasing them around the house. But of course, she acts like she's playing. The scene from the trailer when she asks the granddaughter to clean the inside of the oven and makes her crawl all the way in it. And the grandfather, or like when they go for a hike, they stop at a well and they just stare at it. The brother decides to go check out the shed. Even though I think they were told to stay out of the shed. They were told to stay out of the basement. He goes out there and there's a pile of dirty adult diapers. And the brother's a germaphobe. But every time something like this happens, they do have an excuse. Like when the brother finds the pile of dirty diapers, it's explained to them that the grandfather is incontinent, but he's also, very dependent, very prideful. So when he has an accident, he hides it. He takes care of it later. He's ashamed. When they ask about the grandmother naked scratching at the wall at night, the grandfather says she has, they call it sundown syndrome, which is, which I guess is a real thing that, when the sun goes down and nighttime hits, it causes disorientation. I guess not to say it's a form of senility, but it causes stuff like that, specifically at night. The only thing that seems to be the thing that carries throughout the film is there's this old folks home. I guess old folks home or insane asylum, whichever. I think it's more so insane asylum that the grandparents volunteer at. If I'm gonna say spoilers here because it's hard to even tiptoe around without making it sound obvious. So I'm gonna say spoilers here. But like most Shyamalan movies, big wide release. Of course, when it came out, everybody talked about it. I knew the twist beforehand because it was a movie I never planned on seeing years ago. So I actually watched a Rambo Raff's review of it because it was a big rant, and I didn't think I'd ever see it, so I watched it, and of course, years later I ended up seeing it. Which it's hard to say if I could see the twist coming because knowing beforehand for a fact, you pick up on everything. So it is not really fair for me to say, oh yeah, they made it obvious from the beginning. Anybody can pick up on it. Because knowing the twist, every little clue sounds obvious. But it's not fair for me to say that, so I'm not going to. Because I did know the twist. But I will say this is one of his better films. I still have very mixed feelings, but it is one of his better ones. It's way better than Signs, The Village. Goes with the polar opposite of The Happening. Obviously not as good as The Sixth Sense, and I still need to see Unbreakable. And it doesn't always work as found footage. I mean, there's even a part where there's music. Towards the end, there's a part with music. The scares, I mean, there are parts that are kind of creepy. I guess there is some sort of tension at the end once everything starts coming to a head. But if you're paying attention and you pick up on some stuff in the beginning, like some of the stuff I talked about, like the sweater threads, like, well, wait a minute. They're really making it obvious about, there'd never been any pictures, not talking on the phone, not knowing what the grandparents look like. I just have very mixed feelings. It's one of those movies where I have to say, if you want to check it out, go for it. I don't dislike it enough to say, fuck this movie, but I don't like it enough to recommend it. And again, found footage, it doesn't feel like an effective found footage film. It feels like a movie made to look found footage. But, yeah, The Visit. So, spoilers. Which, it's hard to go into a Shyamalan movie, especially this late in his career, and not just watch it. I mean, he's one of those directors, it's like going to a Michael Bay movie and, expecting over-the-top special effects, explosions, and CGI madness. It's hard to just watch and enjoy a Shyamalan. Enjoy because they're usually bad, but just watch because you're expecting the twist. You're expecting... It's sort of what happened about halfway through the Saw series. You know that by the end of the movie, there's going to be something that changes the course of everything that we've just seen. Or is supposed to throw us for a loop. And here, the twist is... the grandparents did in fact volunteer at this institution, and the grandparents are not their grandparents. They were patients at this place. They killed the grandparents and assumed their identity. And so, as the film goes on, because they're not getting treatment, the facade of being loving, caring grandparents starts to fade, and the crazier becomes more and more frequent. And of course, the moment of which is she is able to fix the webcam, and she's talking to her mother, Catherine Hahn, which she's on a cruise with her new boyfriend. And some of the stuff that she is told that they're doing, like,
I saw Grandma naked last night scratching at the wall. I saw Grandpa, he says he was cleaning the gun, but, he pretty much had the rifle in his mouth when I walked in on him. And she's just, they're old. They're crazy. They're old. It's like, it just comes across like either she's really stupid or she's just a mother that doesn't want her vacation interrupted. And also really stupid and careless because even if you have a 15-year grudge against your parents, chances are you have a picture of them somewhere. Or if you're going to ship your kids off for a week, you would probably be like, oh, hey, this is the couple that's going to be picking you up at the station. These are your grandparents. Or, hey, why don't I call them, set our differences aside, and call them to make sure, that they're okay with, this whole visit. But no, this is a movie of convenience. Convenience, but also like it's a movie that tries so hard to make sure that the twist works and that the twist isn't fucked with. Because also, there's people, friends of the grandparents that stop by. Like this one woman who's like, oh, I went to that hospital or whatever, and they were such a big help to me. Or, I love that. Or if she wasn't a patient, she works there. It's like, oh, they're such great volunteers. I made them a plate of something. Whenever someone stops by or calls, they're always gone. They're always out. Even at one point, the woman comes back and the grandparents are there. They're outside arguing, and she keeps making motions like to stay, to stop. I'm going to go do something. Of course, they kill her, which we see later. And the kids start counting down the days, and when they finally are talking to Catherine Hahn, when she gets home from the cruise, fix the webcam, and they're telling everything about, that's happened since the last time they talked. And she's like, they're outside. And she's like, they even take the laptop, show like, it's them outside. She's like, where? She's like, they're right outside. She's like, that's who you've been staying with? They're like, yeah. And she's like, it's supposed to be the dun 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 moment. But she's like, that's not your grandparents. In which by this point, you should expect no shit. No shit, that's not their grandparents. Being Shyamalan, it could be anything. Okay, they're actually vampires. They're aliens. They're crazy versions of the brother or sister from the future. It could be anything stupid. But yeah, they're just escaped patients that killed the grandparents and assumed their identities. And they're doing one last night together. They're trying to play Yahtzee. The scene from the trailer when she's just munching on these cakes and yells Yahtzee with a mouthful of food. There is this one part when, it's obvious that he's shitting himself. So he gets up and takes care of it. And then he's walking towards the grandson and he's like, got a problem with germs, don't you? And he just splats the dirty diaper right in his face. And they do manage to... I watched this, I think, 2 nights ago, so I don't even remember what they... I think the son beats the grandfather to death. Yeah, repeatedly, he slams his head in the fridge. And apparently, because the dad left them for another woman, and they both feel guilty. The son feels guilty because he was on like pee-wee football or whatever, and he was supposed to tackle this kid, but he got nervous and he froze. And he thought his dad was disappointed in him, and that's why he left. She pretty much just got a card saying, "I love you, but I'm leaving." So now she can't even look at herself in the mirror. That's sort of, she feels unworthy of herself. That's sort of, I guess that's their arc. So when even though he has shit all over his face, when he steps up, kicks him to the ground, slams his head in the fridge, that's sort of him unfreezing in the football game in his head. And there is a scene when she has to crawl back into the oven again, and Nana actually shuts it, but then she opens it. The sister does go down to the basement, finds the grandparents. I don't remember what she did to the grandmother. Oh, she stabs her with glass from a broken mirror because Pop locks her in a bedroom with her, and she breaks the mirror and stabs her with it. And then they run out. They run outside into the rain, which conveniently is when the cops and Catherine Hahn arrive, and they embrace. Then we get exposition at the end of how, she says Catherine Hahn says she never talked back to her parents. They always, were strict about meeting the right man. And when she said she was leaving to be with their father, they objected. And the grandfather struck her. Oh, she hit her mother, and then the father hit her. There was a moment of silence, and then she just left, and she never turned back. And there was a phone call shortly after from them to make amends, and she didn't accept it. And pretty much she kind of made it sound like, for 15 years, she made it sound like there's no forgiveness, so I'm not going to try. But she just kind of, it was there whenever she wanted, and she never took it. So that's when, and now she can't because her parents had been murdered. So then she tells the daughter, Becca, to don't hold on to anger. And her documentary ends with footage of the two of them very young with their father. Because earlier on, she does talk to the camera about how she's not using any footage with her father in it because that shows that she forgives him. So that's like the arc at the end where she shows that she has forgiven him. And then during the credits, we get Tyler, the brother, rapping about their experience. I did watch the making of, and my girlfriend was just like talking about Shyamalan. Was like, he seems really full of himself. Like the girl, like that's like a girl version of him in the movie. Like he's very pretentious, and I was like, yeah, he is. He is kind of full of himself, and I had to level with him. I was like, when your first movie is The Sixth Sense and everyone calls you the next Hitchcock, it's easy to see how that'll, how that can go to your head. But by this time, he'd been shit on so bad. But, yeah, I guess or maybe that's just how he talks. Yeah, he did seem awfully full of himself. But, you know, even with this movie's problems, like, okay, because of how it's trying to make the twist work, like, Catherine Hahn's character does seem either incredibly stupid or careless. And this movie does seem desperate to make sure the twist works by using even convenience. There are times where, yeah, it is kind of creepy, or it does get a little tense, like during the final game of Yahtzee when, you know, everything's all fucked up. Again, I knew the twist way before I saw it, so it's hard to tell if it really, how obvious the twist is while you're watching it. Yeah, I don't think it really works as found footage. It does feel like a studio making a found footage film. For some reason, I actually thought the grandparents were going to be a lot older. Like, I thought they looked rather, not young, but a lot younger than in my head I remembered, like, from the trailers. But I do got to be honest, I was surprised. I was expecting this to be like Paranormal Activity bad, but, you know, Shyamalan bad. Like, I went into it expecting to hate it. Maybe that's why I don't. The best thing I can say about it is the performances. Especially from the two kids. I thought the two kids had remarkable chemistry with each other. They really played off each other very well. You know, I bought her as a pretentious film student. I bought him as a kid that thinks he's a cool rapper. Again, I thought his rapping was supposed to be cringy and funny, and it was. And I did buy the old couple as having these, you know, forms of dementia or whatever. But, yeah, this film was mixed, and I don't like it as much as the fans of this film, but I don't dislike it as much as the detractors of this film. This is one of those, I'm so in the middle that I don't really have a definite opinion on it. I don't really know what else to say about it. I mean, the performances were great, but I don't really think it worked as found footage. I think it was so... I mean, it is a Shyamalan film, so it's relying on the twist. I thought it was so worried about the twist that it even makes characters look either stupid or careless. And that's all I can say about it. But it is one of Shyamalan's better films. But that's not saying much. But that is 2015's The Visit. Thank you for watching.